monthly board meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm very excited to report I have a gavel now. I'm going to try not to abuse it, but our old gavel somehow came up missing. I'm not really sure what happened to it, but we're happy to have one to. It is. It's, I think that same joke was made by Angie. Thor's hammer.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe, for that.
Yes, thank you. We're going to start this evening's meeting with communications from the public, and I do have sort of a pre-prepared statement to read before we get into this. At this time, the board will be opening up time in our meeting for public comment. The board recently discussed the timing of our public comment session, and by consensus, we decided to move it to the beginning of our meetings, as well as providing a public comment session at the end. We did this out of courtesy for the public's time, because we believe it is crucial to hear from the community about their concerns and issues. We ask that you adhere to some guidelines during public comment. Please come to the lectern, state your name and what item you wish to address. I'm going to have to insist that you please address the board as a whole and not individual board members or any members of the audience. If you would please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, we would appreciate that as well. And if you have written comments, you could submit those to myself or to Ms. Wilhelm. As public comment is not a time for question and answer or debating of issues, please do not expect the board to answer questions or respond to comments this evening. We will make every effort to respond to concerns once an appropriate response is researched. And lastly, due to federal and state privacy laws, we will not allow comments or questions directly about school personnel. Personnel concerns should be addressed privately through administrative channels. And I do have, it looks like 2 people who have indicated an interest in making a public comment this evening. First is Chrissy Curran-Paller. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Mr. Fryman is first. That one was typed out. I only saw the handwritten ones. Mr. Fryman, please.
Good evening. My name is Randall Fryman. I'm a chemistry teacher, science department chairman, and MFT president. I'm finishing my 29th year teaching and 28th year with Messina Central Schools. During my career, I've worked under many different superintendents and even more principals. While administration has changed, one aspect did not change throughout my career, and that was that my colleagues, whether hired as teacher, counselor, teaching assistant, stayed in our district and proudly retired in Messina. Unfortunately, for the past few years, that trend has changed. Many new hires to Messina do not stay. They leave us. Obviously, there are many factors that contribute to our younger colleagues' departures from this district, but one overarching common theme that I have heard is they simply don't feel supported and have received better offers elsewhere. Our district once set the standard for education in the North Country. Between our advanced curriculum programs, arts, music, athletic, and so much more, we well compensated our staff for the times and were the example of other districts looked to. Now more than ever, it's clear that we need to work with the district to help raise our starting salary to attract the best talent to Messina and adjust our salary schedule accordingly. We need to provide the best benefits available to get new hires in the door. Adding to this an administrative culture of supporting and nurturing staff, we will begin to return Messina Central Schools back to being the envy of the North Country, a school that staff do not want to leave. The Messina Federation of Teacher members give of themselves every day. We have worked through the most difficult teaching years of our career since 2020, essentially reinventing the way instruction was delivered while being there for our students who saw more struggles than any adolescents should. We have given all to our job that one does not leave when they close the classroom doors to go home that day. Our work comes home with us. Our mental preparation never stops. Our worry for our students never leaves our thoughts. Just this past Friday, it became abundantly clear that many of our teachers are living paycheck to paycheck. Due to being young teachers, due to being strapped by student loans, there are many reasons, but due to a district-wide banking issue, automatic paycheck deposits were not made at the normal time. This quickly caused stress and panic, as I heard from our members throughout the day. This made me aware of how tight things are financially for a majority of our staff. Automatic payments caused accounts to be overdrawn, and as the day went on, I heard personal struggles. It became even more apparent to me just how important it is for members to have a new contract. This new contract needs to include a raise to help us keep up with inflation, health insurance benefits that are the best in the county for both staff and retirees, and should prove that administrators support excellence. In this business of educating our youth, I cannot show you a bottom dollar profit margin. I cannot show you a monetary return on your investment. But what I can show you are children with nurturing role models in the classroom. Children who are supported and cared for, and children who have advocates in their lives in the form of our staff. I can show you students who go on to realize their true potential. I can show you graduates who work on the family farm, attend college, serve our country in the armed forces. I can show you those who contact their teachers after many years to tell them what a difference they made in their lives. There may be no financial return I can offer the district in negotiations, but I can offer something even more meaningful: the priceless effect your teachers have had on thousands of our community's youth. We're relying on this board to decide to honor and support your teachers, teaching assistants, counselors, and social workers with a new contract that will once again set Messina apart as a standard for education and one of the most attractive places to work in the North Country. I know we can't accept questions. I did ask to be on the agenda, so we could, but if any board members ever wish to speak frankly and candidly with me, I'd more than welcome the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fryman. Now, next is Chrissy Curran-Powler, please.
Hello, thank you. My name is Chrissy Curran-Powler. I'm a teacher's aide at J.W. Leary Junior High, and I'm the vice president of the MCSD, and I'm here to speak to you today about safety and well-being of our staff and our students in our schools. The continuing rise in targeted violence, antisocial behavior, coupled with a decline in social emotional skills, mental health, resilience, and a feeling of community has had a devastating effect on the learning environments in our schools. The most extreme examples of these behaviors, school shootings, terrify us. We seek understanding, we seek answers, we debate hardening schools and the breakdowns in the systems that lead to tragic results like Uvalde. These conversations and these measures matter, but they do not address the underlying issues that drive the problems. This is the harder, but just as important work that needs to be done in our schools. Before you today, you see many examples of your greatest resource in addressing and reducing violent and antisocial behaviors in our schools. We, your school staff, are prepared to do our part to address these problems with you for our students. But in order for us to create a safe space where our students feel supported, secure, and important, we need you to ensure us the same safety, support, and recognition of our importance to the school environment. We live in new times, and that requires new strategies to address our new challenges. We are, and always have been, stakeholders and partners with you in this district and this community to find solutions to the problems that our students face. We want to work with you to end disruptions to the safe, welcoming learning environment. We want our students to feel secure and supported and heard when they are with us. We want them to develop their talents and skills and abilities and find the sense of belonging and esteem that will help them to achieve their personal goals. That's why we chose to work in schools and work with kids. I know this is the learning environment I want for my child and our children as a parent, an educator, and a proud graduate of this school system. I think that we can all agree that it is a school environment that our children need and deserve. And the best way for students to know that their learning environment is safe and welcoming is to see it modeled every day. How do we tell our students that they should feel safe, secure, heard, and supported unless we can say the same thing about ourselves? I'd like to end by saying we are pleased that Mr. Brady, on behalf of Mr. Fryman and I, we are pleased that Mr. Brady has agreed to our request for representation from both the MFT and the MCSEA on the District Safety Committee so that we can work together toward achieving the goal of a safe, welcoming, and inclusive learning environment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Curran-Paller. Appreciate the comments. Maureen Frary is next.
Hello, my name is Maureen Frary, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Nightingale, the grade level leader for fourth grade, as well as the union rep for my building. Over the past few years, teachers have been faced with many challenges. We have had to alter our curriculum and conquer remote and hybrid learning expectations, embrace new technology, all while navigating a pandemic. During this time, some of us chose to teach, not only within our school system, but for many of us personally. During this time, some of us chose to teach remotely. We created videos to support lesson plans from home, while at the same time caring for our own quarantine or sick children. Due to the capital project, we've had to move out of our rooms, months later move back into our rooms, eat lunch in a makeshift teacher's lounge in the hallway, lose our planning period so that special can be in the classroom, special teachers lost their rooms. We continue to teach and test through drilling, banging, and beeping. The teachers of MCS are tired, we're burnt out. Sorry. And we're sharing less about our personal celebrations in the classroom, but rather our frustrations. Sorry, I just need a minute. No, I can get it together. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I guess this is like Mike Violi Tech Prep. I'm back. I'm back in business. Okay. All right. So we chose to become teachers for a rainbow of reasons, mostly to make a difference in the lives of our children we teach, or maybe to provide the same level of education or experience we've had as MCS students. We also understand that receiving a large paycheck would probably not be one of those reasons. Last Friday, there was a delay in depositing our paychecks. I completely understand that mistakes happen, and the problem was taken care of that evening. However, the delay caused a lot of stress for me and my colleagues. Many of us are living paycheck to paycheck with bills that need to be paid, auto payments already scheduled based on the current payroll schedule. I'd like to believe that extra personal time and thought that teachers put into our lessons, activities, projects, classroom preparation, attendance of personal development, and workshops, along with our experience, would equate to the salary we are currently receiving. I don't live above my means. I own a home, I pay taxes, bills, and I'm barely getting by. And this is why an issue like last Friday was so upsetting. I also believe that in this current economic climate where everything is skyrocketing in price, our salary should reflect the cost of living has also increased. In addition, it's come to my attention of many of our teachers that there might be some disparity with regard to new hires. We would like to think that new hires with no experience should be hired at step 1, rather than be hired at a higher step that puts them ahead of teachers who have worked, especially during these last 2 to 4 years. This provides an unfair advantage to teachers who have struggled through the pandemic, as well as teachers with experience. Current teachers should be afforded a pay schedule that allows them to feel respected and appreciated. New hires should also be hired on a step that allows them to have a decent quality of life as a first-year teacher and an incentive to stay with us here at Messina Central School. My dad always told me that if you take care of your employees, they'll always take care of you. So this is our opportunity to work with the district to ensure that pay scale is adjusted from the bottom so that everyone has a fair to all experience levels. I know the board realizes, along with the MCS families in our community, that our jobs are vital. My hope is that you will recognize this and we can come to some sort of compromise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frary. Are there any other folks that would like to make public comment this evening?
I'm coming up here noteless. My name is Barbara Martin. I was in the graduating class of 2012 as a retiree. And life has changed exponentially for my former colleagues. When I retired, we had a thing called compensation for our sick days. And it was $125 a day. And I was able to benefit from that. That was a piece of my financial package to help me to make that decision that that was a time I could retire. Well, the very next contract, it went down to no dollars for sick days. And people had come in and persevered on days they had splitting headaches or whatever. And they were just trying to build those days because that was a little piece of their retirement plan. But it went down to zero. I know several teachers who retired under that contract, got nothing for the days that they saved. And it seemed to have been lost going back to negotiations far before I retired. The whole idea was continuity for the student in the classroom. So we didn't have to have subs in and out, in and out, in and out all the time. In fact, we used to be quite upset when we had to be out for a workshop during a school day because a sub would have to be in our classroom, and that was going to definitely affect the continuity of whatever curriculum we happened to be involved with. So that's just one aspect, and all the retirees since 2012 have been negatively impacted in that one regard. But there are so many other things. When I retired, there was zero premium paid for health insurance. It immediately went to 5%, then it went to 10%. I'm not quite sure if I've lost track. Maybe it's still 10, I don't know. But regardless, it's another chink out of that pay grade that you get. And so there's just so many things that have eaten away at what the salaries are. And it's not keeping up. And yes, you do live paycheck to paycheck for probably half of your career because of school loans and having to have your master's degree within 5 years of your bachelor's, of being hired. But all of those things are dollars and cents. And as Randy had pointed out, and this was a big concern of ours when I was on negotiations, was we have to have an enticing starting pay, or we're not going to get those teachers. We're not going to get them. Or if we get them, they're still looking. They're going to look. They're going to find something better. And we used to be the gold standard of the unions in the North Country. I mean, people would come up to us all the time, well, what do you do here, and what do you get there, and what's in your contract about this? Because we had something that they didn't have, and they wanted it, and they deserved it. And so it was a different time. 10 years later, sad to say, it's like a revolving door. There are people being hired and then walking away. Not necessarily leaving education, but they're walking away for a better deal somewhere else. And that's very sad. With what these people have put up with for the last 2 years, I thanked my lucky stars every day that I wasn't in that boiling pit of trying to survive with all the changes that were required of them to be able to instruct. And yet now they're sitting down for a contract negotiation, and they're finding that there's not the give and take that they were hoping for. And yet we're in very good shape financially as a district, probably the best shape that I've ever known us to be in as a district, and yet holding tight and not, sharing the wealth for those that made the district survive through this whole pandemic. So I just wanted to get up and say those things, and it'll affect me as well, but that's not as big a deal as it is for the active membership. I'm more concerned about them, but I remember as an active member, we used to go, oh, well, the retirees, we had to think about the retirees, and they have, and they've been wonderful about keeping us in the rear view mirror because we're not in the hallways anymore, but watching out and being careful and being mindful of the fact that they will one day be a retiree, but as an active member, they would give to hold on to the retiree benefits. So give, all, every which way. And it's got to stop. Some of it's got to come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments this evening at this time? Okay. Hearing none. Thank you all for your thoughtful comments and your polite comments. We do appreciate it. We're going to move on now to approval of the minutes for the May 5th, 2022 Board of Education meeting. I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments on those minutes? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. And next, the minutes of the May 17th budget vote. Oh. Thank you. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Okay, any opposed? That carries as well. I have nothing in terms of board correspondence. Next, under information and reports, we'll start out with the Facilities Committee report from Mr. LeBlanc.
So, thank you. We met May 23, the board, and we were supposed to meet in Nightingale, but it's got postponed for the next meeting. So we met here at the high school. We got some updates from the constructor and the architect, but those are a month old, so they're going to talk about it and have better news or more updated news. We talked about the capital outlay, the 5-year plan as well, which usually we talk with the architects. We talked about also, there was a request for planting trees around on the property. We are okay with that, but with some limits. We need some guidelines to make sure that it doesn't create problems. And there was also a request for an update on pictures in the auditorium, which seems to be a good idea. That's it. We're going to meet again next week or June 27th. Thanks.
The only other point I would make on that, Robert, is on the mega reunion tree planting request, the committee did approve that request for a tree over on John Story Trail next to the 1988 tree. So that tree would be for all of the classes of the 1980s, and there would be an inlaid plaque at the bottom of that. So,
Yeah, there's policies to respect, and
Yeah.
we make sure that we respect it.
yeah. Did that get on, Angie? Okay. So we do have that on for approval tonight as well. So, because the mega reunion is coming up on August 6th, and they'd like to plant the tree as people are coming back.
Right. Okay, next is the report of the Policy Committee from Trustee Baines.
I have 2 meetings to go through, so I'll go through them pretty quickly. Let me know if you have any questions. We met on May 24th. We talked about the therapy dog policy, and I'll go over that one at the next, because we talked about that at the next meeting too. Logan Dobbins sent over a very sophisticated letter to us. He recommended some changes to policy 1323 that would place more control of the choice of the student ex officio in the control of the student body versus the way that we do it now, which I believe was in the hands of administration. Pat, is that how we did? How do we do it now?
Administration had a piece of it if if there was an alternate, I believe is what's in there. You probably know that even better than me, Logan.
Yeah, so it's in place that if an alternate is selected for any reason, the administrator gets to choose who the alternate is. So that's the main change that I wanted. Change was it should stay in the hands of the student body more than anything.
Yeah, and Logan sent over a letter explaining his rationale for that, and the committee is in agreement with the suggested language changes, so we have brought that for first reading tonight. A lot of the other things that we looked at that meeting was just number changes. We also looked at policy 7552, the student gender identity policy. We did some verbiage changes on that, which we revised in response to the Gender Recognition Act. So we had to update a lot of the verbiage in there. That was our meeting on the 24th, and then we met again on the June 9th, and we discussed therapy dogs again. And wasn't present for this meeting, so hop in, Jodelle or Kevin, if you have anything to add. But we decided, hey, Kevin, how about you take over therapy dog?
You sure about that?
Let's do it. Go for it.
So the biggest contention with the therapy dog policy was the the statement that the therapy dog would be allowed to complete its training in the school. And that was sort of counterintuitive to the minimum requirements of that therapy dog, and so that was the crux of the arguments back and forth. And ultimately what we agreed to was if that statement goes away, that the therapy dog can automatically complete its training in the school, then likely maybe the board will accept it. And then there was an additional statement advocating for the rights of anyone who has an aversion to dogs and clearly stating that they have some protections within that policy, a student or staff. So there was an additional statement regarding that was added to that policy.
Okay. We're bringing that one back for first reading tonight. Did you want to talk about the NISPA policies that you brought, or no?
I attended an online workshop through the State School Boards Association on several sort of hot issues in schools these days. I don't have my notes in front of me, and I don't have the link open to the policy committee notes either. But there were a few of these that I wanted to make sure that our policies were sort of up to snuff in terms of the NISBA policies of the same number. So I passed those policies on to Mr. Brady and the policy committee, and I think early next year we'll take a look at those in terms of review and make sure that that those policies are as they should be.
Okay.
Can you quickly just refresh my memory as to what they were? Oh, here, I've got it. Policies on student harassment and bullying prevention and intervention, policy on eligibility for co-curricular and extracurricular activities, policy for student personal expression, and policy on the school code of conduct. So we'll be looking at all of those policies at some point fairly early in the year, next year, I believe, to make sure that our policies that we have on our books are up to snuff as far as what NISBA has in its sample policies.
Perfect. And the rest of the policies that we reviewed that night were just the, a lot were the duties of the staff in the business office. And I think they were just, some of them are for review only. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Just one clarification I would make on the transgender policy is that.
I didn't even see it. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, earlier this year, the board passed the transgender policy for the first time. There were some changes that were recommended by Erie 1, but on advice of council, because the law is still in flux in some of these areas, would advise us to maintain our current policy. So we don't have another draft for that. So I just want to clarify that. Yep.
Okay, moving on to student ex officio report, Mr. Dobbins.
Yes.
I think
We're going to have to put something on the screen.
Okay, so tonight will be a little bit of a longer report than normal. But first I want to talk about what the report is going to be about. So it's about student government and the importance of student government in schools. But the first thing I want to talk about is how did I get into student government? In 7th grade, actually I'll first talk about some background a little bit. My grandparents and my great-grandparents grew up teaching in schools. I grew up around my great-grandfather and my grandfather, who one taught history and one taught business. But they both agreed on what student government is and how important it is into schools. My great-grandfather, who passed away when I was in 7th grade, he used to go to all the board meetings, and my great-grandmother would go as well. Actually, what I'm wearing tonight is not just because I'm trying to dress up. It's actually the attire I wore to my great-grandfather's funeral. He's been extremely important to me, and he really just taught me what the importance is for a student's voice and how it can change a school district. And he was a wonderful teacher, so that's really where this came from. But the quote I chose on the title page, "Alone we can do so little, together we can do so much." It's because as I went through this year and as I went through student government, it's not about what you can do as yourself, it's about what you can do with others. Actually, I'm looking out on all my teachers who really got me where I am today. All the presentation skills I went through, all the talks, and I really just want to say really thank you to, I'm going to say two people right now. Jan Normile, she really helped me with this presentation and was really important to me. And Mr. Fryman, Randall Fryman, he's been important in student government at the high school, and I've been up through with him for 4 years now, since 9th grade. But yeah, you can go to the next slide. So I traveled to all the elementary schools this past week and a half, plus the junior high, and I just talked to the high school staff and administrators and student council. So at the Nightingale Elementary, we were introduced to advisor Melissa Gallagher, in the student council. So I just want to list off the officers for student council in Nightingale, which is President Chelsea Miller, Vice President Tate Lincoln, Secretary Ray Ellis, Treasurer Wyatt Preston. I'm extremely impressed with what this group was able to do. I actually came from Nightingale Elementary, so it's really important to me what they did there. And it's even more surprising when you go to the next slide because their student council started in March. Their advisor was out on maternity leave for over half the year, and they were able to do more than any student council at the elementary level in just 4 months, which is extremely impressive. So they ran the school store, which made approximately $715, which is extremely impressive when you think that's only 4 months from now, and it was closed for a year and a half. And they fundraised, all the fundraised money that came from the school store and from the coin drive, which you're going to see, went towards helping for the 4-H trip, plus another initiative for Ukraine as well. But they also organized Spirit Weeks, which I don't remember doing a Spirit Week in elementary school, so that's extremely impressive to me. They also bought Sunday materials and food materials for a 6th grade picnic, which they did when I was there. They would go to Springs Park, and it's just a fun day for the 6th graders. You can go to the next slide. So this is the coin drive, and what's really impressive is you wouldn't guess the amount they made. They made approximately around $1,000 in a coin drive, which is extremely impressive for a 6th grade student council that only consists of 6th graders there. So on the left, it's a picture of Marcus Fernstein and Mandy Binion. Yeah, thank you guys, thank you. And they're really impressive. Just being able to talk with this group, I've never talked to a smarter elementary school group in my life. It was amazing to be there. And on the right, there's a group of students with signs for Ukraine. The picture's a little small, but you can't see it, but the top row spells out Ukraine. You can go to the next slide. So I went to Madison Elementary School next. They're in the middle of the capital project, so the 6th grade class is currently in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom. The cafeteria is the lunchroom at Jefferson. Justin Shope was the advisor. Presently, there are no active officers just because it wasn't able to run this year. But Mr. Shope plans to reactivate the student council next year. What's impressive at Madison is student council there consists of 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. So it really moves around in the grades, and all the officers are not 6th graders. There's one that's a 4th grader, 2 that are a 6th grader, and 1 that's a 5th grader, which is really impressive. But when it's usually active, what consists are fundraisers, and they help out anywhere in the school building that is possible. You can go to the next slide. So next was Jefferson. We met with advisors Nicole Terminelli, Paige Arcette, and Michelle Porcaro. Officers, presently there are no officers, but if you go to the next slide, they still did a lot this year. So they helped fund J-Day, which today actually occurred. They helped with the bouncy houses, which I actually volunteered working, and they were a hit, so that's really impressive. They also worked to lead the Principles of the Positivity Project. This is the time I'll first introduce Logan Benoit. He'll be the next student council advisor not student council, student ex officio to the Board of Education. And we met with Mr. Richards for, I would say, a good half an hour, and he showed Logan all about the Positivity Project. It's impressive what they're doing at Jefferson, and it's something I really want to bring to terms because after traveling through all the schools, it has by far the best climate in any of the schools. For some reason, it just feels good there. They're happy, the kids are happy, the teachers seem happy from who I'm talking to. The Positivity Project is making a huge impact in Jefferson, and I think it's a great idea for all schools to look into. You can go to the next slide. So at the J.W. Leary Junior High School, we met with advisor Jessica Jarrett, officers President Jack Jarrett, Vice President Aaliyah Prashaw, Treasurer Ava Thompson, Secretary A.V. Phillips, and Zeta Torrey. This group is quite impressive as well. I met with them multiple times throughout the year. So back in March, when I first brought up going to the schools, I really only saw J.W. Leary just because of time and breaks and spring break and snow days. So I met with junior high then, and I was already impressed. So they worked on dances this year. They had 2 dances in the end. Actually, you can go to the next slide because that's where they'll be. They help the green team with plant sales. So the green team is a group that gardens and sells plants and vegetables, and they made quite a bit of money. I think it only came out to be, it wasn't too much, but like $150. But for the amount they sold, that's really nice. And also when you think about everything else they did. So they ran the Secret Santa gift exchange. They organized money for all other organizations within the junior high. So all money from any organization in the junior high school has to funnel through student council because it's the only student account. So they have to keep track of not only their finances, but also along the way with the other finances that are mixed in. This group of kids work hard. They meet once a week or try to meet once a week. That's busy for junior high students. But their goals for next year. So the majority of these students are actually 7th graders. There's only one 8th grader on the student council this year, which is the president, Jack Jarrett. So when they talk to me, their goals are more fundraisers. They want to buy things for the cafeteria, which includes smoothie machines. So they want stuff that's actually right there in the Morning Blend Cafe, which they're really excited about and they're going to put their money towards. They want more field trips. That was a big thing. So they're going to fund for more field trips. And they're going to help with granting money for the 85 Plus Club. 85 Plus Club has been inactive for a couple years now, so they want to activate it again and make it more of a junior National Honor Society at the junior high level. And intramural sports. So that's another big thing they would like to start next year is we're trying to figure out a way to make students stay after, because a lot of teachers and students at junior high school say they don't stay after from 2:30 to 3. So we need that teacher to student connection again. So the goal is to bring intramural sports, bring more clubs back to junior high, so more kids, more teachers, more administrators, they can interact, and maybe it can help the school climate just as much as integrating the Positivity Project or other programs like Sources for Strength. Now you can go to the next slide. So at the high school level, I met with Randall Fryman, the advisor, which I just go to their meetings whenever possible. Officers, President Jadlyn McMillan, Vice President Owen Cyrus, Secretary Isabella Beard, Treasurer Madison Hendricks. So what's impressive here is 3 out of the 4 officers are freshmen. So the only other grade level is a junior, which is the president. There's no seniors that are officers on the student council level for officers, which is impressive when you think about usually those positions are held by seniors. You can go to the next slide. This was a successful year for the high school. I think out of everything, this was the most successful year for student government from what I've seen in the past. They organized 2 school dances. They bought DJ equipment for the school, which is really nice because we saw it at prom this year, is student council was able to sign out and work with the junior class to give them a DJ equipment. So it cheapens everything for everyone else and helps lessen the cost for other organizations who want to hold dances, charitable fundraisers, anything, they can just use that equipment. They also ran 2 blood drives, which I did not expect them to do this year because usually that's done by Interact and the Youth Rotarians Club in the past. So they took on a lot more than what they usually would. And they organized 2 school spirit weeks. So really this year we tried to bring spirit back to Messina Central High School because that's been gone for 2 years now. We really wanted to help with the student-teacher connection. You could tell that climate was definitely a topic of conversation this year. We had a committee for it. We had other things. We need to bring that back. We haven't had those meetings in forever. Climate is an important conversation that you talk with any guidance counselor, you talk with any teacher, you talk with any administrator, that's an important aspect of the building. You can move forward to the next slide. So I want to talk about the student ex officio as a member. So their goal is to help voice the students' body's opinions, work closely with teachers, administrators, and board members to fix school-related issues. And this goes back to the quote at the beginning, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. This year, I think anybody in the room knows this, I talked to so many teachers, I talked to so many administrators and students. Really what you have to do is you have to work together. This position and anything within the school runs not just with one person, not with just administrators, not just with board members, it runs with teachers, students, it runs with the connection between everyone. So that's the important aspect of any government, student government position and any aspect of school climate is you have to work together as one community to build back something that was broken. These past years, 2 years have shown that something needs to return to Messina Central High School, needs to return to Messina Central School District. And I'm hoping Logan Benoit continues on that path, but that's another thing that's so important about this position. It's a position that only one student serves as a graduating senior. So every single year you get someone different. on this path, I led to make it a more of a position of advocacy and helping others. But I want to see where Logan goes with it next, and I think that's important, is there's no set bar for anyone. I don't want to set a bar for Logan. I want him to crash his own bar, make it. He can do whatever he wants, and I think that's important, is you need to set your own path into a position. You need to not go into anyone else's shoes, something like this. So this year, really what I'm going to say at the end is we need to target areas within the school climate that need improvement. There are areas that need improvement, and I think we all know in this room that they are needed to change. At the J.W. Leary Junior High School level, they need to change. At the high school level, they need to change. At the elementary school level, they need to change. And we need to work together as a board, as a student body, and as teachers to help make that change possible. So now I'm going to fully introduce the next student ex officio, Logan Benoit. I am happy to pass the reins to him, but he's going to be great. I've known him since sophomore year. Him and I did robotics. He's very technologically savvy, which I'm not, so that's great. And he's just a born leader. He's done so much for the school already. He's a part of student council, and he always voices opinions, but also debates with people. His opinions aren't set in stone. He wants to hear everyone else's. So I'm happy to pass the reins to him, and I'm going to wish him the best of luck next year. And that's it. Oh. Thank you. Thank you. I also just want to thank some more people in the room, students. So I want to go back and thank the advisors, because I don't know if anyone knows this, but they're very important at the elementary school level. They do so much for the kids, but these positions are volunteer positions. So Melissa Gallagher, Justin Shope, Nicole Terminelli, Paige Arcette, Michelle Porcaro, they're all volunteers. So I want to thank you guys for all your hard work this past year and for helping kids get to their goals they want to succeed. Thank you.
Wow.
Don't go anywhere, Logan, please. That was impressive. You've impressed this board and anyone who has been privileged to watch the meetings online or be in the room with the board that's seen you give any sort of presentation, be it oral or something like this, has to be impressed with you. By any measure, Logan has been an outstanding student ex officio. His attendance was fantastic. The only occasions that I can think of when he was not able to attend a meeting, he had a report written up ahead of time. He just made sure the job got done. He was a great advocate, not only for his classmates, but as you just saw, the entire student body, K-12. He brought concerns to administration and to the board sincerely and always worked through proper channels, and frankly was not afraid to mix it up with us here at the board table. He gave us his straight up opinion many times, and not only did we have to listen because we were here, we wanted to listen because he had very intelligent comments to say. In short, Logan is exactly what the board was looking for when we created the student ex officio position several years ago. So, Logan, on behalf of the board, I would like you to accept this very small token of our appreciation for your work this year. And also, I hope you'll accept the board's gratitude for what you brought to our deliberations. And we just want to wish you the best in the future.
Thank you.
Logan, let's take a picture. Let's bring the board. Christine,
You ready? 3, 2, 1. One more.
Okay, that was actually my first item under the board president's report. Here's the second one. We have 2 board members that are going to be leaving us. We have only one that's here this evening. I actually have some prepared comments to make here. I'm going to make sure that I read them. Lauren Fountain made his leap into board service after winning election in 2012. And he'll leave June 30th with 10 years' experience. And much of that time, Lauren has served as the Finance and Audit Committee Chair, devoting many hours to the struggle to craft balanced budgets that met the needs of the district. Lauren's unique perspectives and strong opinions were always paired with good humor and always welcome. It's a combination that we'll definitely miss. So, Lauren, on to the next thing in your life. We're going to miss you, and thanks for your service. But you're not done yet. Okay, the next item that I have is just a heads up that our reorganizational meeting for the next school year will be on July 7th. I'm hoping there aren't a lot of conflicts with that date. That is the date that is established for our reorganizational meeting. And the last thing that I have is just the board calendar for next year. It's a draft, and likely some changes will be made. I'm sure that some changes will be made because in the spring semester, so to speak, we did have a couple of extra board meetings, special meetings, to talk about other items that weren't going to get discussed otherwise. I anticipate that we'll probably do the same thing and maybe try to spread those out more over the entire year next year. Basically the board meetings will be the third Thursday of the month, as they have been, with a couple of exceptions. And it looks like we may be able to get away with just the one meeting in April without having to have a regular board meeting and a special meeting for the BOCES stuff. So that is the board calendar, and there will likely be some changes, but I believe that's on the agenda for approval,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. And that ends what I have to say at this point. So we'll move on to reports from administration, and turn it over to Mr. Brady.
Thank you. Well, first I have to apologize to our newest board member, Dan Tusa, because I told you 7:15 you'd be on tonight. So I was, as usual, I'm way off with time. But Mr. Oliver has the distinct pleasure tonight and honor to present our salutatorian for the class of 2022.
I told him to come later. He didn't listen to me. It is our distinct honor at Messina High School, and personally a distinct honor for me to introduce Miss Madeline Tusa as the salutatorian of the class of 2022. I have had the unique pleasure of being Maddie Tusa's principal since it feels like roughly forever. Throughout her time in the district, she's always pushed herself as hard as any student I've ever seen push themselves. She's always taken the most difficult path. She was one of the hardest workers I can remember at Madison, She was a student that won everything that could be won at junior high and was an accelerated student there, and kept that path alive at the high school where she was a full IB student. Absolutely challenged herself with the most rigorous classes at the high school, and while doing all that, maintained a paltry overall average of 100.77 for her 4 years in high school. But that's not where the story ends with Miss Maddie Tusa, because Miss Maddie Tusa also was, in her senior year, the captain of the girls' varsity soccer team, which went to states, and we had one of the best defenses I've seen. They did fine until, what did Coach Hayes say? We ran into the U.S. women's national team in states and they destroyed us. But that was okay because we did fine. She also went to states in softball this year, which was another great thing. And in between the sports she did, she was also featured in 8 Messina musical productions, including this year being Sharpay in the High School Musical for anybody that was there to see it. As if that wasn't enough, she was a member of the Interact Club, Project Raiders, National Honor Society. She was president of the Spanish National Honor Society. She's all around the kind of kid that the school district should be proud of. All the teachers that are here tonight are proud of you. Most of you are from the high school, but everybody's proud of you. You've done incredible work throughout your time here, and I would like to formally introduce to the school board Maddie Tusa, the salutatorian of the class of 2022.
This one too. Okay.
So we were doing this. Surprise. Okay. 3, 2, 1. I'll take one more.
All right. Rob Gray, you have to follow that. Rob Gray, yeah, Rob Gray.
Maybe you'd want to maybe sing your report to us. See.
Very impressive. Everything been very impressive tonight, I must say. As a resident of the district, I'm proud.
Yeah.
And good evening, everybody. I will preface my remarks. I'll try to keep them short and sweet, but I do want to say that on behalf of the contractors, the architect, CNS, we really do appreciate the patience, cooperation, and adaptability of all the parents, all the students, all the faculty, all the staff, and the administrators going through this project. We know we push the envelope, but it's most important to know that at the end of the day, you're going to have a very efficient, very safe, very secure project. Okay, I'll be short. We'll just roll right on to the next slide, please. Phase 1. Oh,
You want this slide?
that's all right. Yes, all the contracts are in closeout. I know it drags out. I've said it for years. 90% of the work takes 10% of the time and vice versa. Phase 2, we're going very well in Phase 2. Jefferson's on schedule, will be done by late summer. Madison is on schedule. Nightingale's a little bit ahead of schedule. Phase 3, as soon as school is out, we're going to jump into the auditorium and the corridors over here in this building. It will be aggressive, but well organized. Punch list in progress. At this point, really, it says high school punch list. It's mostly site contract work at Jefferson and Leary. Other than that, we're 99.9% done. Work is on schedule. Swing space, exterior entrances. The only ones we got left to do are a couple of loading dock doors. Softball dugouts are at this point done. There's some replacement equipment that's got to go in the high school baseball dugouts. The asphalt repaving got done. Bleachers look pretty good, I think. The masonry work around the building on the outside is essentially complete. After school's out, we're going to jump into the courtyards. Obviously, we're waiting for that. Jefferson, the cafeteria renovation, very little work left to do. There's a door demo in the corridor. And the big work left to do over there is one rooftop unit and the door frames in 100 and 300 wing in the gym. On the 24th, the plan is to have Messina Electric and the electrical contractor do the electrical service cutover, shortly followed by Madison and then Nightingale. Messina Electric's done a great job cooperating with us throughout. Madison, the transformer actually has been installed this week, and we're ready for the cutover right after Jefferson's. Loading dock will be done in a couple of weeks. Data room is essentially complete. Cafeteria's been turned over, as we told you at the last meeting. Kitchen, we're waiting for one flooring fill. By the end of July, it'll be 100%. 100 wing is ongoing. I think we're probably just 3 more weeks will be completed in the 100 wing. The boiler room work is ongoing. Boiler rooms are tough, but I'll tell you, it looks so much neater, more organized, and more efficient now than it ever did. It will be a much better facility. All the renovation will be done this summer. The admin wing is in both Nightingale and Madison. Not as complex or as aggressive as what we had to do with the classroom wings, but it's a displacement. So we'll be done with that probably by the 3rd week in August. Nightingale's almost in the same boat, maybe a couple of weeks behind Madison. Of course, we're working on the kitchen and cafeteria. Loading dock, the new loading dock's been poured. The electricians, of course, as I said, have been doing a great job working with Messina Electric. That transformer got set. They pulled in the secondary cables this week as well. The boiler room, probably 2 weeks behind Madison, but it's going great. At the bus garage, you may have noticed, whoever goes over there, that we've replaced a block about 4.5 feet up. It looks very sharp. It was needed. It's a good end product, and doors and frames are ongoing over there. And I'll add that the Cat 6 cutover, there's a little server room we put in there, and I don't think Mike's around, but they finished the fiber optic cutover with Slick today. Cost-wise, you look at the bottom line, in the red is really in the black, folks. That's money to the good, left over. And you look at phase 2, we are going through the allowance as you're supposed to do. It's used for the unanticipated and extras we want. So we still got a good buffer in the phase 2 money. Manpower is going to go up and down. It's an indicator, but it's not the only indicator of progress, as you can see. Now it's a steady level. It's going to be jumping up, of course, in another week. And we have photos. There you see some of the new block under the windows at the high school, like out here. The dugout, asphalt. Yep. Lots and lots going on. Any questions?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
The reseeding of the grass on either side of the paved John Story Trail, that's part of the project, is it?
We're on it. The original topsoil mixture that was submitted by the contractor was found to be deficient. It's pH value in organics. They resubmitted it, got rejected, then they resubmitted it, and it just got approved within the last few days. As far as I know, they've ordered it. There's a lot of topsoil to go around, so we expect them to start. We've been asking them daily.
Okay,
At
so
this
it's not like
point,
you're just gonna spread seed?
oh no, we didn't forget. It's on the way. And there's a little minor corrective work here and there they have to do to dress some other things up. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to our high school graduation rates. This is a question, Kevin, you had brought up previously this year about taking a longitudinal look at what our graduation rates look like. I'm going to have Stephanie come up, our CIO and Director of Curriculum, who compiled this information for us.
It would only be appropriate at my last board meeting that I would present. So here we are. I almost had a heart attack when Mr. Brady says, and you'll present, it'll be about a half hour, and we're going to go over high school graduation. I almost had a heart attack on the Zoom meet. I was like, half hour on high school graduation. But he said, make an appointment with Angie for a half hour and we'll talk about it. I felt much better. So what I had to do, my task, because I wanted to make sure that we saw a long enough trend that we would be able to see that over the last 20 years, with the ebbs and flows, we have on average an 82% graduation rate at Messina Central. And last year we were at 83%. When Mr. Brady and I met this past week, all right, we said, what was the whole really premise of why we wanted to look at this information, besides just having that general knowledge of 20 years of graduation rate at Messina Central? Yes, there's an anomaly of 95. I truly believe somewhere somebody put the wrong number in to have 95% graduation rate. So that's an anomaly to me. That sets over here. But on average, let's say it's 81% if you take that 95 out, all right? There's a couple of things that I took away from this is in the last 20 years, we ebb and flow, and we're about at that 82%. So one would say, and my husband said that to me, he goes, well, Steph, isn't that a good thing, 82%? Isn't 82%? That's a good, state, regions, ours is 85%. That's what we want to attain to. 82% is good. And I said, anytime a child doesn't graduate, is not good. And he's like, oh, okay. He goes, but did you compare that to other districts? Is 82 good? And I said, honey, there's a whole formula that goes into that. You have to have like demographics, and you have to have that across so many years. I said, but what we need to take away from this is the following. It's 82% of the largest district in the North Country is graduating at Messina Central. So we need to celebrate that, all right? There's positives there. But what we need to know is where's that 18%? And I think where this came from originally is when we were talking about alt ed. If I kind of put my head back into when did we start talking about graduation rates? Kevin's wanted it for a while. I'm sorry, Trustee Peretta would like to have, and he's asked for it for a while, but then it just kind of caught fire a little bit and said, wait a minute, if we were to bring back that program, is there data that supports during that time that program was going on, that we indeed saw a higher level of graduation rate? I have never stood in front of you in 6 years and been dishonest about any data, and I will never do that. And I will end now saying there is no data that supports that. I tried with everything I could to find a subgroup, a poverty group, our Native Americans, our students with disabilities. I tried to find something. Because I want to share with you something that I do with our teachers when we look at data. Because I think, Jodo, we talked about that. When we always come to numbers, kids aren't numbers all the time. We have to look at the other parts, as Logan was saying. We're very intricate, and we have a lot of needs right now, our kids do. So there's two things that happen when you look at data. There's what's called the science of the data, or the science of teaching, all right? And then there's the art of teaching, or the art of the data. I stand before you and I say, there is no science that supports the alt ed program in the data. But the art, your gut, your feeling, your children, your teachers are telling you the art of the data says if we continue to do what we're doing, you're going to continue to get those numbers. What the heck? Put it out there. Work with these kids. Create connections. I don't know where that young man is, but he's got a big shoes to fill here. All right? But have Logan, have your teams come together. If the science did not tell you to do it, I think as we sit here as a board, as a staff, as a community, and having an alt-ed program for our at-risk kids that also are kids of interest, and we build it, and you commit people to that program, bring back those original folks. What worked? What didn't work? What didn't work? All right, well, let's tweak it. Let's find something else. Your data is telling you you're at 82%, and I can pretty much hang my hat on it as I step out the door. You're going to be pretty close to that next year. Let's look at some different opportunities. It is the first time in all of the 6 years I've been here that we have tripled the number of students who are in residential placement, meaning they are going to facilities for mental health, for well-being. We have quadrupled the number of students that are being homeschooled, and many of those are from anxiety. All right? We need to do something different, or the data's telling you you will be about 82%, which can be celebrated, but it's that 18% that we're saying, how can we get a couple of more? That's your data. Are there any questions?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Mr. Trustee Peretta?
I looked at this data and I would agree with you. I didn't see anything that jumped off the page that said we have to have alt-ed, but one of the things that as I thought about the idea of the graduation rate is, you know, you sort of said it, we've lost 18%. There's about 18% that are falling through the cracks. So being an engineer, I like to break things down into manageable size problems, and I wonder, would we be better served to look at the dropout rate, because it's great that we're getting 82% across, and I think I just think it's so important to our own future, because who is likely to stay here and repopulate the school?
Mm-hmm.
In our community at the end of the day. So I think it's so important to focus and put the resources in there and not let them fall through the cracks. So one of the things that I've wondered as I look at this data is, what grade do you lose kids? Do we follow each grade and say, we lost, how many did we lose this year? How many did we lose this year? Because you talk about cohorts, and that's about following the cohort. So I want to know how many kids we lose in each year. Maybe that's where the drill down is. It says where you need to put the resource. Did you lose them in 8th grade? Did you lose them in 7th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, whatever it may be? And I can't stress enough how important I think this is to keep this, even every year. How do you empower the students to not let the other students fall through the cracks? Is there any way to do that from a student perspective? Or to put out some sort of a challenge to each class. Hey, I don't know, we don't have as many dropouts as the other class. I don't know. How do you get some involvement at that level? Because just like Logan said, you have to involve everybody. Because
Go ahead, Logan.
So actually, I wanted to talk about this. Freshman year, the spring of freshman year, I sent an email to Sarah Boyce at the time, Mrs. Boyce, the principal, about a program, Sources for Strength, which Mr. Brady knows all about, and it targets mental health-related awareness and issues. So with the mental health problems we're seeing in the district, this is the time to integrate it into the community and into our school. It's something that I've been advocating for since my freshman year of high school. I know it's an issue in our district, and I know we need to find a way to solve it. It's a way to solve it right now, and we have the funds as a district to put it into into play. We have Link Crew, we have Web. Let's combine the programs with a program that actually targets mental health and helps students with their struggles at the time from a student level. This is a student-led initiative and program.
Okay. You know,
Oh, sorry. Sources of strength. Yes.
So
And there are things.
I don't want to point out that, I'm not trying to point out the negative to this, because I just think that I don't want to leave a stone unturned, and do we accept 82%, or are we still shooting for 100? So then you got to figure out every one. I mean, and I started thinking about it. I go, well, let's see, we got about 200 kids, so a point's like a half a kid, or whatever it may be, and I was like, well, we can't look at it that way, because that person's going to be in the community, and then what type of community member, what chance do they have if they've dropped out of high school?
Well, it's a multifaceted issue, and I think when you talk about when do they drop out, well, they can't legally drop out until they finish when they're 16 years old. But you can see it going back into elementary school, some of the kids who are struggling. Every school has a team that looks at those students and looks at them for retention or looks at their attendance issues. We've had, attendance challenges, which have somewhat been put a little bit to the side during the pandemic because and we got to overcome the pandemic because a lot of students who tuned out during the pandemic are now your attendance problems, and we have to get beyond that and getting them back into school. But they're also the same students that we're looking at for the mental health issues, which we've added the social workers to work with them, and they're also the students who are on your AIS caseload for ELA and math, which we've been putting interventionists in to try to get them back from tier 3 down to tier 1 and not up to special ed. So it's what we're trying to do with 9th and 10th grade, and to get a technology program that connects those kids. So, because we know if we can get them to BOCES, we know if we can get some of those kids to BOCES, the graduation rate in BOCES is 90s. That's like 93%. So if you get them to there, then you're going to have a better chance. But it's that 9th and 10th grade year we know that they start to hit that wall and they can't pass some of their classes, and they start to do other things that become a barrier to their success.
The classroom doesn't fit their learning style.
Right, their learning style. So it's.
It's very important to me. It always has been, and I've tried to keep as much focus on it. And I'm not criticizing anything. Lauren, in finance, we've always been advocates of all the interventions that and supporting those things. That's smart money.
Yeah, boards. You guys have been great.
We're gonna be a while digging out of the hole created with COVID. I don't expect change very quickly, but it doesn't mean we quit trying or don't try to push the numbers up.
Yeah.
So
agreed.
That's the
Just
art.
want to say one more
That's
thing
the
on
art
that.
of teaching.
That's my last meeting. I'd love to see more work with the community schools coordinator, working with families, because it's really about families, right? Trying to find a place where these kids can feel safe, where they can get the treatment they need. I'd love to see us look into adult ed programs through the community schools movement, where we can get some folks aligned with local businesses who need workers, but maybe our adults don't have the skills they need. We have the greatest educators around here at our school. It's about the community. It's about community schools, and I hope the district continues to invest in that.
We put a lot of support, and thanks for reminding me of that, Lauren, of the community schools program, and it's done a lot of good. We somehow have to crack that nut of parent engagement. We put a lot out there to engage the parents, but we still are not able to, and that's the critical piece, because our teachers, and we only get them for part of the day, and a lot of time they're at home.
thank you for looking into that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I just want to touch on what you said, because I actually think that's really important, and it's been something that I've thought about a lot. We put money into Link Crew. We put a substantial amount of money into Link Crew. It's a very small population, but it's very effective because you're linking a younger person with an older, more experienced person, and actually, I've seen it help both of them. I've seen the older student become a mentor and then become much more self-assured and a greater leader. And then I've seen the person that they've mentored also show growth, because we can't control the parents. But if they have somebody in the school that they can relate to who shows an interest in them, sometimes that's enough to keep them engaged. So I would be in favor of looking, I'll do some research on this, but if Kristen can maybe somehow partner with the guidance and do it for the whole school. Pair people up, because I almost think that they'll work harder for their peers than they will if they're not engaged with a teacher. That's something that maybe we should look at, and putting some money there too.
I do want to touch on this. This actually has been brought to administrative attention from the guidance office. They have talked to administrators about this program for years now. Mr. Jordan and I communicated right before this meeting a couple days ago about the importance this would be in the district. But then I also just want to talk about what you just went off of. So it's successful at the junior high and high school. We don't have something in place like that at the elementary school level. And for the past 6 months, I've been volunteering with at-risk kids at the elementary school level. And they feel as though they have no future. They feel as though they have nothing to look forward to and work towards. That's an issue we need to solve as a district, and maybe this is the time to start bringing student leaders down from the high school and junior high to the elementary schools to meet with kids on a regular basis. There's a lot of these students in our community, and we need to work with those student population as much as we do with the high school population, because the elementary school population has to look forward to something. If they don't, they're going to drop out. They're not going to make it to graduation their senior year.
Thank you. So I just wanted to take a moment too, and one of the reasons I wanted Stephanie to present tonight is because this is Stephanie's last meeting, and she is retiring after such an excellent career, and we were happy to get her for the last 6 years of that career. And I want to tell you that there isn't anybody who works harder, just tireless, to improve opportunities for kids and for staff, and what she's done with professional development and the training she's done for staff over the last 6 years, and the collaboration she's made is incredible. I'll get emails from her at 1 o'clock in the morning and early in the morning and so forth, and nobody works harder, and I appreciate it, all that she's done for this district. All right, I know we're getting on to 2.5 hours now. We have a few more things to go. I wanted to, in terms of threat assessment planning, you heard earlier tonight about safety and the importance of safety, and it is our top priority to keep our students and staff safe. And we, just coincidentally, the day after Uvalde, we had a threat assessment planning with Mark Concordia, who's a kind of an expert in the field, who's worked for Homeland Security, for FBI. He puts on training for schools to stop intruders. He's worked and knows what are the pre-attack indicators for those who would do harm to schools. And he talked about self-care plans for students and staff, and taking care of ourselves, and enhancing a culture of shared responsibility for safety and support, and multidisciplinary approaches. It was really, in many of we had teacher aides there, we had counselors, we had administrators. He's going to be coming back to the district. He's going to come to the district. This was a training with Potsdam, Matter, Waddington, and us. He's going to be coming here and doing some threat assessment training. And right out of the gate, after we received this training, Mr. Oliver and Mr. Richards are the heads of our district safety team. We put together an ad hoc threat assessment team to start looking individually at some of the students that we had concerns about. And we brought in law enforcement and counselors and others to kind of take a look and go through and see what are those factors that we know, what are those factors that are protecting some of these students from doing harm, and what can be done as a group. And so we're putting some of those plans into place. We expect over the summer we're going to be getting together and working more on the threat assessment team, and we think this is going to be a great structure. We're also this summer going to be working with our as we set our board goals for the new year. Safety is going to be a critical piece of this, and looking at how we can enhance our safety plans, our protocols for different levels. I know Dwayne's been working on updating the flip books of our safety plans for the teachers in the classroom, looking at every avenue that we can make this place safer. Rob talked about the capital project. This project's going to make this place safer. We're going to have more locks on doors that teachers couldn't have before in their classroom, and we're going to put in more cameras into the school and try to maintain that single point of entry during the day. And as you know, we're also working on getting an SRO that will be in the district again. We think that's very important. And we've added 2 social workers last year to work with students who are having anxiety and other mental health problems. We're adding another one this upcoming year. We're going to be doing more training, staff training at the beginning of the year. So there's a lot of the work that's going to be done over the summer. And that includes with our substitutes, because I know some of the board members have brought up substitute training. We're getting ready to send out a survey to our subs to ask them a lot of questions about district support and the training that they need and other questions, so that we can get that feedback from them as we're looking at meeting our sub needs, because we know we have a shortage. We want to take care of the ones that we have. We want them to be comfortable in the classroom. Nicole Terminelli when she did her internship with me this year, she did some preliminary work on this. We're looking at some, right now, analyzing some training for substitutes that's virtual, because it's really challenging to try to provide one training for substitutes, because they come and go all the time. So we're looking to provide a program that would be more of a virtual level program, and that survey we're going to send out will be part of that effort. So there's a lot in place for safety. There's more we're going to do. And I think the staff are going to see at the beginning, as we get into next year to begin the year, we'll be doing more in the area of safety training.
Pat, can you repeat the name of the gentleman that you're going to have back in?
Yeah, his name is Mark Concordia.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on that? I also provided you some information on our strategic plan. Our district strategic planning team met on May 10th, and then our different building level committees also met during that time between the 10th and the 12th to plan with Sean Brady of Prism Systems. We have a rolling 3-year plan, which includes metrics on graduation, student achievement, regents, for example, 3 through 8 testing, dropout rates, and also wanting to increase the number of students who get an advanced Regents diploma, who get the seal of biliteracy. And you can see in the plan, there's a lot of metrics there that we're trying to aspire to. And so this is the 2022-25 plan. This is the next rollout, the 3-year rollout plan. And you do have a copy of that. You can see that we highlighted in bold some of the main areas. All of these are areas we're going to look at, but the ones we're going to mostly focus on are in bold. So you can see them as providing a safe, effective learning environment for students and staff, implementing the district-wide comprehensive improvement plan to increase graduation rates, reduce dropout rates, and improve attendance, and then providing resources to meet mental health, trauma, and social emotional needs of students and staff, fostering a positive school environment, Logan talked about, that values diversity, awareness, and celebrates success, and trying to use student data to evaluate and improve our AIS program. So you can see a mixture of academic and social emotional goals there. And then those goals will be taken to the building levels, and they'll be made into action plans to improve in those areas, and they're working on those. And they'll also be used, this summer we will have our retreat with the administrators, and we'll put these plans into goals and bring them back to the next board meeting in August for your review.
Just to piggyback on all of that, I asked Angie to send us the last 2 iterations of the strategic plan, just so you could compare and contrast some of the changes that were made during this, the last meeting that was held with the team.
All right. So that's a work in progress. I always update the board on the St. Louis Health Insurance Directors Meeting. We had one in May. Just a couple of points there. The plan, we have the workman's comp plan as well as the health insurance plan. The workman's comp plan is showing that the first 9 months of the plan were about 16.6% below budgeted levels. We're still seeing the effect of COVID, where we had less claims when people were not all working in the schools. So we have a healthy income now of net income of $254,378. So the workman's comp plan is doing quite well. The health insurance plan is also the revenue. The revenue is below budget this year. This is largely due to a few factors. We had Morristown leave the plan. We have a reduction in enrollment over the past 18 months, as well as a slow conversion of some districts to the lower premium riders. We're about 12% under budget when it comes to the expenditure side with regards to medical paid claims, and about 3% below budget for drug expenses. And some of this is really the ongoing effects of the pandemic, as people didn't seek out as many medical services unless you had COVID, and if you were in the hospital, you were generally probably in the Medicare side of COVID, and which wouldn't have impacted this plan as much as it did Medicare. There is currently they did put out an RFP to look at a Medicare Advantage plan. There were 6 insurance companies that were sent the RFP. 4 of them responded. Right now, Losi and Cahill, our administrator, is looking at that information, and they're expected to come to the next meeting with some recommendations to the board of directors on looking at a Medicare Advantage plan as part of our Excelis plan. And so we should see that analysis the next time. And they're also working on revisions to our entrance and withdrawal procedures for plan participants, and that would become part of our municipal cooperative agreement that holds this plan together with the school districts, and then that would come to you as to the individual boards. So they're trying to change. We've seen some schools leaving the plan, but now you're starting to see some of those schools thinking about coming back to the plan. And so we want to look at what are the conditions for entering back into the plan, what are the conditions if you want to leave the plan. So we'll see more of that coming up as well. Questions? All right. For disposal of district equipment, we do have some desks. I'm sorry, I missed the school physician. Okay, school physician, we are We have the school physician contract to present. It's an annual contract. We're happy that Messina Memorial Hospital wants to continue their collaboration to provide medical director services to the school. They provide student physicals, bus driver physicals, and training and variety of other services. And no change to the price. And with the school equipment, we have about 120 student chairs and desks, which we have on the agenda tonight. These are come from the high school. The junior high did need some of them. These are the excess ones, and the board would pass a resolution to declare them unneeded under our board policy. And then we will see if we can sell them, and if we can't sell them, we'll dispose of them in another way. And one donation to the district from Arconic, Warm Fuzzies for Ukraine. We've had this campaign that was started by one of our elementary students at Nightingale, was mentioned earlier tonight. And you have a memo with a whole list of items that they donated for Ukraine there. So Arconic's a great partner with the school. Through grants and donations, and we always appreciate Arconic. And finally, PALS, the Police Activities League, has requested buses for this summer on Mondays to take, I think it's 4 Mondays, to take students to Robert Moses Beach so they can enjoy the beach. That's it for me.
Thanks very much, Pat. Next, we'll hear from our business unit, although Nick is not here this evening, but Mallory is going to pinch hit for Nick on a couple of the reports.
So on the budget status report, there was $51.3 million in revenue, $38 million expense, and $13.2 million encumbered. In the budget transfer report, we have some forward spending that was left in the budget and end-of-year transfers, which mostly was from substitutes and bus drivers. On the April treasurer's report, the month started with $48.7 million, cash receipts of $3 million, cash disbursements of $4.2 million, ending April with $48.5 million. Then in May, we have cash receipts of $4.1 million, cash disbursements of $5 million, ending the month with $47.6 million. On the internal claims audit report for April, 2 warrants were verified in the amount of $1.1 million, 158 total claims with 0 errors. Then in May, 2 warrants verified in the amount of $754,000, 177 total claims with 0 errors. And the BOCES claims report, 6 warrants verified in the amount of $13 million, 24 total claims with 0 errors. That is all.
Thank you very much, Mallory. Appreciate that. Moving on to recommended actions. Apparently I did not. Nope, I've got it. Okay.
The tree, the mega reunion tree, is that on there?
The what?
Mega reunion tree, do you see that?
Nope. Apologies.
That was the only one, right?
November to May, okay. Yep, BOCES audit for November to May.
You don't see it?
Nope.
Okay.
It's the 4th one down, right after disposal of district equipment, approval of mega reunion.
Well, let's give Paul the,
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, no, we're sorry about it, because there was a lot of changes on this one this time, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay, so now, are we at recommended actions, or do we still have one more business manager item? Okay, that's what I thought. District equipment, okay, mega reunion, there it is, okay. We're now going to move on to recommended actions. And the first item is the approval of the school board meeting calendar for 2022-23.
So moved.
One of those days on a Saturday, I don't know if that matters.
Oh,
May 5th.
On a Saturday.
That's what it says. May 6th. Sorry. When I was looking at my calendar. May 6th is a Saturday in 2023.
Shouldn't be anything,
I'm not crazy. Well, about this. I don't know what day it should be on, but it should.
Do we have to approve it
probably not be
tonight?
on Saturday.
Do we have to approve this policy tonight?
You do not.
For any reason?
No.
I'll move to table it.
All right.
I second that.
Yay.
So May 6th is a Saturday.
Yes.
Yep, you're not crazy.
Uh-huh, okay.
You don't want to be on a Saturday?
You know, I'm probably going to be here. It's probably not any big shakes to me, but
Probably Cinco de Mayo on Friday?
Yeah, no.
All right, well, sorry about that. We'll bring that back.
okay, yes, all right. So, do we need to have a motion and a second to table this item?
You have them. You have them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion to table
And a second.
and a second. All in favor of the tabling of the meeting calendar? Any opposed? Okay. All right. So next would be the approval of the school physician contract for 22-23.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries. We have the resolution for disposal of the district equipment, the chairs and tables, desks and tables, desks and chairs, excuse me. Okay, motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, approval of the mega reunion memorial tree and plaque.
So moved.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Approval of the donation from Arconic.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Approval of the Police Activities League Summer Bus Request.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Next, we have several policies that are review only. I'll take these as a group unless anyone would like any excerpted. Okay. Policy 1235, reimbursement of board member expenses. Policy 1630, legal qualifications of voters at school district meetings. 1333, duties of the tax collector. 1334, duties of the external auditor, and policy 1337, duties of the school attorney. Any questions on any of those policies?
I have a question.
Yes.
Pat, we had talked about the tax collector in policy committee, and I was just wondering if we had an idea of the percentage of salary that we're providing. I had asked you that question.
Yes. I do have that. I had, hold on. Yeah, so the tax payment, so our tax payment goes to the town, not directly to the tax collector. This year it was $2,794. Last year it was $4,170. And it's based on the tax penalties that are collected by the town for our school taxes. So if you go over, if you get a penalty for going over, it's based on the penalties. So it's just Messina penalties only, not the surrounding towns. So it can change every year, as you saw the last 2 years.
Any other questions on those 5 policies for review only? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Approval to rescind policy 1321, duties of board officers. Any questions?
I have a question. Of course, I'm not on the policy committee. So why are we rescinding this? Are we replacing it with something else?
Went into another, they were put into another policy. They were
Okay.
incorporated into another policy.
Okay.
Yep.
We still have duties.
They didn't go away.
That happens quite often.
Okay.
A new policy that includes that will be proposed, and we'll have to rescind an old one.
Okay, very good.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Or second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, that carries. Approval of first reading of policies. Again, I'll take this as a group unless anything would like to be pulled out for special. Okay, all right. There's a chance.
I know.
Okay, first reading of policy 1323, student ex officio, policy 5760, qualifications of bus drivers, 6140, employee medical exemptions, policy 1650, submission of questions and propositions at annual elections and special district meetings, 1640, absentee ballots, policy 1310, powers and duties of the board, policy 1320, nomination and election of board officers, policy 8214.1, therapy dogs, policy 1230, resignation and dismissal, 1330, appointments and designations by the Board of Education, 1331, duties of the district clerk, 1332, duties of the school district treasurer, 1335, appointment and duties of the internal claims auditor, 1336, duties of the extra classroom activities funds treasurers, and policy 1338, duties of the school physician/nurse practitioner.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, debate, questions on any of those policies? Okay, hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Those carry. Next is approval of the budget status report.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Approval of the budget transfer report.
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor? Okay. Approval of the treasurer's report for April and May of 2022.
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor? Okay. Approval of the internal claims audit report, general, for April and May. Any comments, questions, concerns? All in favor? Approval of the internal claims audit report for BOCES, November 2021 through May 2022. Any questions? All in favor? Okay, carried. Approval of the CSE CPSE report.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Okay. Carries. Personnel actions, turn it over to Mr. Brady.
Does anyone want any of these items treated separately? Okay, I will move numbers 1 through 112 on the personnel action items list.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
We also have a resolution for sick leave allowance for 4 of the new hires that are going to carry over some of their, a portion of their sick time from their previous employment.
Okay, any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, that takes care of our business for this evening. Under new business and items for future agendas, does anyone have anything they would like to see covered, discussed, etc., in future meetings?
Maybe I have something. So before the pandemic, I brought something, and with the pandemic, got forgotten, buried, and it's all right. But I would like to bring it back with the focus on diversity and the importance of academic excellence. I would like to see if we could do something about bringing second language earlier in the growth of a child. There's a lot more impact on a student capacity of learning a second language, and a second language can help you embrace cultures around the world and also help with diversity. And diversity is going to be a focus pretty soon. So maybe trying to integrate this with that. So I don't know if we could talk to Mr. Boyle if he has ideas. I have ideas, but what's feasible? I don't want to bring more teachers in elementary school. Just want to make it fun, where elementary teachers could bring whatever language as a second language introduction, just an awareness. They don't have to be expert. They just need to play with the language, like Dora the Explorer does in her cartoons.
Any other items for future agendas? Okay, I actually have one. I would like to discuss at the July meeting a possible date for a summer Board of Education retreat in August. My vision, and this is my vision only, would be a possible full-day retreat with lunch in the middle provided. Reviewing a Board of Education self-assessment that I would like to do through Super Eval, and I'm going to be asking you to provide some input on that here very soon, and establish our own goals as a Board of Education for 22-23, and then take a half a day and possibly do another workshop with NYSBA. So it would be a full day with basically half a day devoted to goal setting and reviewing self-assessment of the board from this past year, and the last half of the day being a NYSBA workshop of some kind to be determined. So I'd like to talk about that in July. That's it. Any other new business? One last chance? Okay, now we'll move on to any possible communications from the public or press that, anything online? No? Anyone here wish to make a public comment at this time?
I want to say something. if I can.
Oh, please do.
Just want to thank the board. It seemed like 100 years, actually. But it's only been 10. And I tell everybody that it is the most thankless elected position in our communities. We had our pay tripled this year, and it's still zero. But it is such a crucially important job. I honestly believe that public education is the most important government service we provide. It's the future of our country. It's the future of our race. And thank you for dedicating your time to it. Thank you for, we don't always agree, but I think we can agree that, we're all in it for the right reasons, and I respect anyone doing the job. So thank you very much for the last 10 years.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.
The same thing right back at you. We appreciate all the comments that you've made, the points that you've made, the challenges that you've given to many of the positions that we've taken, and we will indeed miss you. If there are no other comments, I do have need for an additional executive session. I don't believe we have anything from the press. And I have lost my, the reason that we're going into executive session is to discuss the employment history of a particular person. We're going to be talking about the superintendent annual review. There will be no action taken after the executive session. Could I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
Second.
All in favor? And thank you very much for your attendance, and we'll see you next month.